We'll get started because I was just told Commissioner O'Malley isn't going to come.
He won't be available today. They had him get the
Okay. And I'll give my apologies right now. I have to leave. I wanted to start the meeting, but I have to be in Philadelphia for 3 o'clock. So I talked to the sheriff. He's the vice chairman. After I leave, he's going to conduct the meeting. And what I wanted to do is indicate we've had a discussion about the requests for proposals that have come in for the medical contract, and I've directed Warden Betty to and Mr. Wallace to have them distributed to the members of the board. There's been a committee established to review them, but I want to have all the board members in possession of them and have the opportunity to review them in their totality before we make any kind of decision on it. So that's my view of things. Okay, good. And
Judge, the only thing that we know is to necessitate an extension.
Yes. An extension.
Contract for the current medical provider.
Yes, and
I think you'd want to make that recommendation.
I recommended that to Warden Betty, that we extend it for a month, because I think that we could probably wind up voting on this next month.
Once we get on the record and get into the motions, we could do that extension.
Yes, just do that, but that's, I think, the best way to do it. Right now, we've done that with the food service contract, so I don't see any problem doing it for a month with the current contract. Okay?
Want to do the pledge or no?
Yes.
The only thing I would ask is there's some type of tail insurance that I had a question on in his contract. What is that, and does he need to extend that for the 1 month? I mean, is he up to?
Judge, should we start the meeting while the record gets this?
Yeah, we will, but let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I'm sorry, I didn't. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Yes, he can get tail coverage for the month.
Okay.
If, you know, he...
That won't happen until the contract is over, so that we'll push that issue back.
Yeah.
Along with it.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. And with that, I'm going to leave you and turn it over to Sheriff. Okay. Thank you. And I'm sorry I have to leave.
Thanks, Judge.
Have a safe trip.
Thank you.
Thanks, Gary. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. We are going to start with the Board of Managers meeting. We're going to call it to order. I need a motion for the approval of minutes from the last meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Opportunity for the public to address the board on agenda items only. No? Okay. Okay, we're going to ask for the Juvenile Detention Center report. Ms. Stein?
Good afternoon, Board.
Afternoon.
Currently, we have 4 juveniles being housed at the center. October admissions is at 18. Year-to-date is 126. Days of service was 141. Overtime for the month of October was $5,297.93. The breakdown is listed below. The majority of that overtime comes from the FMLA on the 3 to 11 shift. 2 officers were injured during a restraint on October 13th. Both officers sought medical attention the following day. One has not returned to work. The other has returned to work. The 6th task force meeting was also held on November 13th. And that concludes my report.
Anybody have any questions for Mrs. Stein? Motion to approve her report. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Opportunity for the public to address the board?
On the agenda?
Well,
Board of Managers.
on the Board of Managers meeting. This is for juvenile detentions. Members, other business? Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that concludes the Board of Managers meeting. We'll move right into the prison board meeting. A motion to approve the minutes from last prison board meeting?
So moved. Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opportunity for the public to address the board on agenda items only. Okay, motion 17-1052, a motion to approve all current payables for the Community Correction Center, Juvenile Detention Center, and the prison, subject to the controllers. Okay.
So moved.
Is there a second on the motion?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
I'm going to say no because of the overtime.
I'm sorry?
I'm saying no due to the overtime.
Everybody else in favor? Say aye, please.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passed. Mr. DeBilio, Controller's Report 17-1053.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. The Controller's Office has reviewed the prison inmate and canteen account reconciliations, which were prepared by the Prison Business Office for the month of October of 2017 and found no discrepancies between the reconciliations and the bank statements. The balance in the inmate account was $359,725.54 as of October 31st of 2017. The balance in the canteen checking account was $481,378.29 as of October 31st of 2017. And in addition, as of October 31st, the canteen account owned 2 certificates of deposit valued at $15,000 and $131,822.78, which totals $146,822.78. And that concludes my report.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. DeBilio. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. DeBilio? Motion to accept his report?
So moved.
Any seconds?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you. Community Correction Center report, Mr. Jeffers.
Good afternoon, Board. Community Corrections Report for October 2017. Item 1, our program totals: male work release had 60 participants, female work release had 8, adult house arrest had 170, and juvenile house arrest had 24. Item 2, our program's revenues for the month of October total $95,160.24. Item 3, our program's expenses for October total $91,224.84. Item 4, our program completions for October. Work release had 13, house arrest had 36. Item 5, program violations. Work release had 7, house arrest had 9. Item 6, our program's warrants. Work release has 6, house arrest has 2. And item 7, our budget report for the year. Overtime is at 92%, expenses at 80%, and revenue is at 95%. That concludes my report.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Jeffers?
Mr. Jeffers, why is the overtime in your department high?
Overtime is high this year, Madam Commissioner, because we had a opening for a part-time officer that's went on for about 6 months.
Okay.
That overtime, that part-time officer would be covering overtime shifts that were not taking or would not be taken by individuals who were taking vacation time. Our department has a very, very low sick usage, but they do take their vacation time.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions for Mr. Jeffers? Everything's running smooth over there, Mr.
Yes, sir.
Jeffers? I haven't heard anything, so that's a good thing.
It's a good thing.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Motion to accept Mr. Jeffers' report.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Mr. Jeffers. Mr. Betty, the warden's report.
Good afternoon, Board. The average daily in-house population for the month of October was 963 inmates. Regarding overtime, out-of-county board report and the community service program participation report, they are attached. Our staffing update, currently our correction officer numbers break down to the following. We have 168 uniformed staff on shift. We have 1 out on workers' comp, 3 other, and 8 vacancies for a total of 180 officers. FMLA, we have 26 officers on with intermittent FMLA. That's 15% of the correctional officer population. Budget as of October 31st, revenue is at 84% and expenses are at 76%. Presently, we're running under budget, and I'm projecting that we'll come in under budget for the year. Juvenile inmates, currently we're housing 5 juveniles, 4 are male and 1 is female. Inmates at or past their minimum date, total number is 35. We have 12 with no home plan, 8 that are in our community service program working to get into work release and house arrest, 5 who are parole has been denied due to unacceptable home plans, 4 with home plans that have been submitted and they're awaiting an action, and 6 that have been remanded for the balance of their sentence. Extraordinary occurrence reports, there were 3 extraordinary occurrences since the last prison board meeting. On October 31st, during commitment to the prison, a county inmate was placed into the restraint chair after not complying with orders and directions. On 11/4, a county inmate was placed into the restraint chair after being found banging his head off of a wall. And on 11/7, a county inmate was placed into the restraint chair after attempting to grab a staff member by the throat. PREA, there were 10 allegations of inmate on inmate. I'm sorry, that shouldn't say inmate on inmate. There were a total of 10 PREA allegations since our last meeting. 2 were staff sexual misconduct allegation. 1 was unfounded and 1 is still open. 2 were staff sexual harassment allegations. 1 was unfounded and 1 was unsubstantiated. 3 were inmate on inmate sexual harassment allegations. 2 were founded and 1 was unfounded. And finally, 3 were inmate on inmate sexual assault abusive behavior allegations. 2 were founded, 1 unsubstantiated. Commissary RFP update. Once best and final offers are received from the 3 competing companies, they'll be evaluated and the board will be provided with a recommendation. Food service RFP update. Food service RFP proposals were received on 11/9. The submissions are being evaluated and the prison board will be provided with a recommendation as soon as it can be accomplished. And medical services RFP update. 3 companies provided RFP submissions. They are Correctional Care, Inc., Correct Care Solutions, and Connections Community Support Program, Inc., and we're evaluating their submissions. Monitoring report. On 10/24, the LCP was evaluated by the Federal Bureau of Prisons and found to be in full compliance. To date this year, the prison has been inspected and or monitored by the Pennsylvania Department of Corrections, the U.S. Marshals Service, the Bureau of Prisons, and we've undergone a PREA audit. We've been found to be in full compliance with all of these organizations, and in addition to this, we have weekly visits from the Pennsylvania Prison Society. And this concludes my report.
Thank you, Warden. Does anybody have any questions for the Warden?
I do.
Okay.
First of all, congratulations, and I believe you're doing an excellent job in your positions, so thank you. And you have brought a lot of our numbers down in overtime, and I've noticed that as well, but it's kind of out of your hands. So with that, the uniformed staff on shift, you have 168?
Yes.
Every single employee at the prison is full-time, correct?
Yes.
That is why you have overtime. Basically. I mean, you do have other regulations if there was part-time workers that they would only be able to cover certain shifts.
Right.
However, if you have full-time employees all the time, that's all you have, and someone calls off, you have to use another full-time employee to cover that shift, so that's why you have so much overtime. And I want to make sure that the public understands that. There are no part-time workers in the prison whatsoever. So there's no way to save any money in overtime costs when that occurs. That's the first thing. When you're talking about being under budget, what budget would you be referring to?
The 2017 budget for the prison. We were allocated X amount of dollars for revenue, that projected revenue that we would bring in, and X amount of dollars of expenditures. We're right on target with the revenue coming in the door, and we're 83% of the way through the year, and we've used 76% of the expenditure funding that was available in the budget.
Oh, so you're just talking about the money that you get from the federal and state government?
No, the money budgeted from Lackawanna County for the prison. Our expenditures, line items, numerous.
Well, what you spend from Lackawanna County taxpayers $21 million.
In that, yeah.
Over and above the federal and state allotments that you're given.
We have an
Because we have a $27 million?
$26 or $27 million.
And we get back about $7 million.
About $7,
So
yes.
then the Lackawanna County taxpayers pay $21 million.
Right.
So that's really not, I mean, that's why I'm saying it's not under budget, because you're actually $21 million in the hole, because that's what the taxpayers have to fund.
Yes.
Above the federal and state budget that you get.
Right. We don't get anything except for fees for housing federal and state inmates. We don't have any budget amount of dollars coming from the state and federal sources. It's just for housing individuals there.
Right. So, I mean, I'm looking at it as a $21 million shortfall.
understand.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yes.
Okay. And I just want to make sure that people understand that as well. But with all that said, I think that you and most of our staff are doing a good job.
thank
So
you.
I appreciate it. I do want to ask on the PREA, you have 2 founded on the inmate and inmate sexual harassment allegations, and then 2 founded on the inmate and inmate sexual assault abusive behavior allegations. So what happens to those people? What are the PREA, is there certain regulations that you have to follow once that happens?
Yes. What we do is, with all of our findings, with a PREA investigation, we forward the findings to the district attorney's office for determination whether or not it's something that needs to be looked into, possibly prosecuted. In-house, you commit a violation, it's called a misconduct, there's repercussions that are involved there as well, where somebody can end up getting disciplinary custody for a time period.
Okay. What is disciplinary custody?
Where they're placed in, disciplinary custody, restrictive housing, people will call it the hole,
Okay.
where you have to serve X amount of days there for violations if you're found guilty of them.
So this is a whole other charge that is brought against that?
Yeah, the
If it's a
potential is there
prisoner,
for
then-
criminal charges to be placed on an individual if it's deemed appropriate and serious.
Okay. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
I have something. Okay. Warden, I think it's important for the public to know that that currently our Lackawanna County Prison is in full compliance, would you say?
Yes.
Under the monitoring report on October 24th of 2017, the Lackawanna County Prison was evaluated by the Federal Bureau of Prisons and found to be in full compliance. To date this year, our prison has been inspected and monitored by the Pennsylvania Department of Corrections, the U.S. Marshals Service, the Bureau of Prisons, and the prison has undergone a Prison Rape Elimination Act audit.
Yes.
All of those are in full compliance.
Yes.
Because of some of the old allegations, there may be a perception out there that the prison is in disarray. But I think it's important for the public to know that it is in full compliance right now, and it is not in disarray. There may be some old allegations that are being looked at and investigated, and just want to point that out. So,
You're 100% correct, and thank you for pointing that out.
good job on that.
Also, if I may add, Warden, it seems like the programs that were implemented over at the prison are working, because each meeting, it seems like the number of inmates that are past their minimum date are decreasing.
Yep.
So isn't that an indication that the programs are in fact working?
Yeah, putting an emphasis on those individuals, and they do cost money. I mean, it costs X amount of dollars per,
About $80
on average.
a day, right?
About,
Sorry.
I'd say about $60 a day per person if you divided everything out. So every person we can go a day earlier than they would have, it's a savings.
Anything else for the Warden? Good job, Warden, by the way.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Betty.
Thank you.
Someone like to make a motion to accept the Warden's report?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, this is the time for the opportunity for the public to address the board.
Do we? Okay.
Good afternoon, Bob Bola, Scranton. First off, I'd like to start off on the PTSD. The commissioners had held a meeting here several weeks ago. I brought a clinical psychologist, an expert in PTSD, up from Florida, and we spent over 2 hours here having the meeting, and I couldn't have been happier to know that we're starting a program here in Scranton, in Lackawanna County, that's not being done anywhere in the country. And so people understand PTSD. It's not just about our people in prison, the COs. It affects people in all walks of life. PTSD is an epidemic, and we're losing people on a daily basis. So I would like to see that implemented, commissioners and the board, to try and put some funding together and get our volunteers in and get the ball rolling. Because, you know, talk is the cheapest thing we could do in the world. It's our actions that are going to speak volumes across the country, because we're starting something here that's not being done anywhere else. It's being ignored in the VA. It's being ignored all through the whole area with first responders and everyone else. So I think we're in a position right here now to put up some funding. We had a lot of people here that are all in favor of it, but let's not let the fire die. You know, we started something here, let's finish it. And if we save one life, we've done one hell of a job for everybody in humanity. So we need to start and finish what we started. So I would like to see the board put a motion, ask for funding from the commissioners to get this ball rolling and stop talking about it. The other part I have, and it's been a pet peeve since I was a guest over at the Warden's Hotel, is about pillows. What I brought today is a little cartoon from Garfield out of the Scranton Times. And in here it says, shows Garfield laying on his back, saying, "I'm roughing it." And there he is, not saying a word. Then below, it says, "No pillow." So he's roughing it at the jail without a pillow. If any of us in here know what it is to sleep without a pillow, try it sometime. When I was an inmate over at the prison, I didn't have a pillow. I had serious injuries, and we weren't entitled to pillows. Yeah, now you could buy them, but most inmates don't have the money to buy them, and I don't think they should have to buy them. I think we're spending millions of dollars in this community, in this county. I believe pillows should be provided. And I've talked about it. I think it's time we stop talking. And I would like to see a motion put on the table here requesting that we finally provide the inmates in Lackawanna County Prison a bloody pillow. They're reusable. They're out there. I spoke to Mike Lindell, the manufacturer of My Pillow, and they're willing to cooperate with us in doing something and getting the pillows that are required and meet the requirements of being a prison pillow, and they're reusable. So I think it's time I put that horse down on the track and get it running and get it over with. Could maybe call it a Christmas present for the prison. Might be something nice for a change. And, you know, there's skim milk and different things that are necessary in there that you can't get. The other part of this is we just spoke about the new medical provisions being put out there, new people bidding. I personally feel and adamantly object to Zalogo and correctional care even being considered. I went through a living hell at the hands of that man, and I brought it before the board, and so have a lot of other inmates. It was about dollars and cents, not about care. He was brought before this board and requested information be provided, and he refused to give it, even though I waived my right to HIPAA. So this isn't the character of a person. I hope he's hearing this, and I hope he wants to sue me tomorrow. I look forward for the opportunity. Okay, so that's one man and one corporation that should no longer be considered. And if he is, I will adamantly oppose any way, shape, or form against him being considered for what he's done in the past. I think that one of the things that we need to really consider is how we take people and educate them, and Warren's doing one hell of a job. I've talked to a lot of people since I was over there. A lot of people call me. I've met with him, and he's doing the job that needs to be done, him and his deputy there. They're looking out for the needs of the people, and it's the first time in a long time people could honestly come forward and say it and not worry about losing their jobs or anything else. He has an open door policy, and that's something that's remarkable in this industry. So, Warden, thank you for what you've done, and that's from somebody that spent time there before you got there. The other thing I'd like to see is a challenge on Social Security benefits. When you get incarcerated, you lose your Social Security benefits. They go in the deep hole of the government, and you get them back when you get out after you fight for them and they finally reinstate them. But if you're in there and you have obligations on the outside, those benefits take care of them. So what happens is an inmate comes out, he has zero left. And where does he go from there? He worked for those benefits. Those are benefits that he earned. The government didn't give it to him. Those are Social Security benefits that we get when we hit that age. And the government has taken them from all the inmates around the country. Yet they want inmates to come in and pay out of their pocket at the commissary for medical and everything else, but they have no money because the government took it. And I would like to see us start a movement toward restoring those benefits back to the inmates while they're incarcerated. It's their money. It's like having your 401 stolen from you. And that's what the government basically did. They're stealing the money from the people who earned it and saying, well, you're incarcerated. Well, if you're going to take the money, don't incarcerate them. It's as simple as that. You're paying to be in jail, and you're losing everything on the outside. It's something that's got to be addressed. It's a serious issue, and it's nationally. It's not just in Lackawanna County. So letters got to be sent to our congressional people, our senators, and let them reverse the unfair taking of someone's money that they earned throughout their lifetime for. And on Thanksgiving, I donate to the Work Release Center a couple turkeys, and I just got permission from Mr. Jeffers to continue that again this year. It's something I've been doing for God knows how many years. And I don't know if it's possible to get furloughs for some of the people that are inmates at the jail to attend the Christmas dinner that I do on Christmas Day. I know we get people from the Work Release Center, and they've been tremendous help and work with the people. It's unbelievable how it helps them out a little, and it takes away from the issue of PTSD and the depression some people have. So it's something that may be considered. We welcome them if they can be there. And with that, I'd like to wish everybody, oh, one more thing. We will be presenting a thing in in Baltimore tomorrow. I'm a speaker at the American Atonement Convention tomorrow on what we've done here in Lackawanna County as how we look out for our first responders. And they're not only our police and fire, but they're also our COs who are working inside this prison in an atmosphere sometimes that could get very tense. And that's why I brought up about pillows. You have people being mandated to work, yet inmates don't get a good night's sleep. You got temperament. It's a way around reducing some of the tension in the jail. Thank you.
Thank you.
Warden, do the inmates have pillows? Do they?
Yes, they're built into the
What they have
mat.
is two things. It's a mattress with a bump of a pillow built right into it. It's all flame retardant for obvious reasons, for fire protection purposes. They also can purchase a pillow off of our commissary.
Commissary.
I think it costs somewhere between $20 and $30. I'm not exactly sure what the price is, but there's that opportunity.
Okay, but they are available to be purchased through the commissary? Okay. $20 to $30?
Yeah, don't quote me on that, please, because I'm not that familiar with the.
Ballpark figure. Okay.
Just for clarity, Bob, I know you're aware of this, but so there's no confusion here, the suspension of Social Security benefits when you're incarcerated is pursuant to federal law. It's outside the scope of our thing, just so nobody misunderstands
I understand it's outside what we do, but it was done federally, and it can be reversed if we all get together and send it to the federal people to reconsider reinstating, because it affects our people right here in the
But
jail.
that would be a lobbying campaign. It's outside the scope of this board, though, as jurisdictional action. On the furloughs, that would be up to the sentencing judge, whether inmates could be released. So that's also outside of the authority of this board, just so it's clear.
That.
Thank you, Mr. Bolus. Anybody else would like to come up and speak?
Hello, everybody. My name is Beth Ann Zero. I'm a resident of Dunmore. I'm also a member of NEPA Prison Advocates. Last Friday, we had an event at St. Luke's to raise awareness of what our group is really all about. And I also want to commend the warden on the great work he has done as far as the overtime at the prison. And after seeing a local news story, I actually felt really sorry for the warden, because the warden is at the end trying to hold up a dam on a river that has far too many tributaries just flowing right into it. It's a very difficult job in a system that's really broken. What it comes down to is there's really too many people in the prison. There's too many people who are incarcerated because of mental illness. There are too many people who are incarcerated because of drug addiction. And as a society, we should be providing care to them ahead of time before the warden even has them under his roof. And that's a huge part of what we are about. And also, the recidivism rate is something that needs great work. Probably a huge portion of who he deals with on a daily basis are people who were there before, who are coming back because of the lack of programming. And even if there are programs, how successful are the programs that are available? Are people able to attend them on a regular basis? Are the inmates able to choose when they're able to go to an AA meeting or an NA meeting? Are they able to go to the anger management classes? I know in some cases, because of the events that occur, like the inmate-on-inmate instances we talked about, where neither of them end up being able to go because of a clash between the two of them, that neither one ends up being able to attend some of these programs. And the programs alone, like the recidivism rate nationwide is extremely high. But looking at some of the other states where they were able to reduce their recidivism rate, California dropped nearly 20 points in a 5-year period. And it's because they started doing in-prison substance abuse treatment and completed post-release aftercare. The people involved in those programs were down to 15.3% recidivism in a country that averages 60%. We in Pennsylvania have the highest incarceration rate in 2014 and are one of only 4 states in the nation where correction spending exceeds expenditures on higher education. And so many states have realized if they put money into education, the incarceration rate reduces because people are imprisoned because of lack of education. Bev did a great job getting books into the prison. She is so persistent. 9 months later, she got them in. But as far as the state goes, most people who are incarcerated have only an 8th grade reading level. So literacy is also a huge issue as well. So I'm hoping that we have programs to help with the literacy so that they can enjoy the books that Bev brought in. And that's just a precursor for the GED program that we keep talking about. Maybe some people are really not getting involved with the GED program out of embarrassment. Being only able to read at an 8th grade level and then trying to read the material that's involved for a GED program can be daunting. So again, a part of what our group is all about is trying to make sure that not just that there's programs available, but that they're viable programs and they're successful programs. And in that, and in taking care of the people once they are released with mentors and follow-up, and to see if we can reduce that recidivism rate, which in turn reduces the number of people in the prison, which in turn reduces the amount of overtime involved. And I know that a lot of the overtime that does take place is because of inmates that have to be taken to the hospital because they're not a hospital facility. And in that, in turn, could reflect on the medical care that they are receiving at this time. So it seems that it is time for a lot of changes to take place. And I know a lot of it is out of the scope of the board that sits here, but here we are in a county where it is difficult for people to get mental health care. There is a very limited number of doctors that are available who specialize in this field. It is difficult for people to get that kind of care because they don't have the money or they can't afford their medication. So all of a sudden they're deciding between whether they're going to eat or take their meds. And I'd like to think that maybe they would rather eat. We're very limited on the counseling that is available. I know people who have quit their job at a local counseling center because they were just instructed basically to turn everybody into a pharmaceutical customer rather than being counseled, rather than attending therapy sessions. Instead, they were handed a prescription. So there are things that we can do as a community trying to entice doctors to stay in this area. We have a medical school just a few blocks away, and I don't know that we're utilizing them or our local colleges to try to get other people involved in helping us in this situation. I'm sure there's probably classes that could offer credits for people to attend different therapy sessions. I know people from Marywood who did therapy sessions up in Waymart, in a state prison. Why can't we involve them in a local prison? So again, we're here to give whatever suggestions we can and whatever help we can, because I think if we all work together, then we could take care of this. We could help take care of the recidivism rate. We could help take care of the people who are in prison who should not be there, who should be cared for instead. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Before we get to the next speaker, Warden, wasn't there talk about reinstituting the GED program over there, if I recall?
Yeah, but they can't.
What I'm
because there's
waiting
no-
on is two things at this point. Number one, I don't think, well, I don't know yet. We're waiting for the finalized budget to see what monies may be available, because I was going to have assistance for EOPT. But then the other thing was our phone contract was going to be loading GED, pre-GED
Right.
materials onto tablets. We're not there yet.
Okay. You'll keep us posted, right?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
My name is Joan Hodawanitz. I live at 220 Linden Street in Scranton. And I want to commend the prior speaker because she's touched a lot of things that I wanted to address this morning. I serve on the Lackawanna County Library System Board and also the board of the Friends of the Scranton Public Library. And we'll be having our book sale the first week of December. And at the end of the book sale, Bev will come with her boxes and her elves and everything else, and anything we haven't sold, she has first dibs to take to the prison. I spoke with Judge Gibbons yesterday morning, or rather he cornered me, and to let me know that he located a retired librarian who would like to donate her time and services to help you run a library for the prison. Okay? In terms of standing up another library down there, we're trying to do this at no cost to the taxpayer, and I think we can do it. Okay, I understand Bev has a number of volunteers who've been receiving training so that they can be part of the prison volunteer system. And then comes the GED program, which on his first board meeting asked Judge Gibbons what the status is of reinstituting a GED program. And you've got to understand that the library program and the GED programs can complement each other. Now, I understand there's going to be a cost with the GED program, but as a society, we have to back away from being penny-wise and pound-foolish all the time. Because I think any money you spend on a GED program comes back to the community in ways that you can't even calculate. I was robbed in 2015, and it's an experience I don't care to repeat. Thank you very much. So if we can, through programs like counseling and GED and libraries and all the other services that we can offer inmates, reduce the number of people who reoffend, because I don't want to be the one they reoffend, okay? I think that's money well spent. And yes, I know budgets are tight and you have to, watch every penny. But let's not shoot ourselves in the foot or cut our noses off to spite our face to save a few pennies in the short term. We in the Friends of the Scranton Public Library will continue to offer you any support that we can in terms of books. We've got ideas like, we could provide, tape recorders and tapes so that inmates who may have children at home can read and tape bedtime stories for their children. I mean, what's that going to do to the morale of the inmate and the families? Little things. Okay, we're not asking for for you to dedicate a lot of money. We'll provide, the materials and the volunteers. But you've got to buy into a GED. I mean, I just cannot conceive of a prison where that does not go on, because I'm sure that many of them need to finish their education. What are they going to do when they get out if they don't have a high school diploma? How are they going to get a decent job or any kind of job? So let's be forward thinking and, get a handle on this problem. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for your work, ma'am.
Hello, Dr. Stephanie Bressler, 1402 East Gibson Street in Scranton, speaking again today on behalf of Progressive Women of Northeastern Pennsylvania. And I'd like to share with you some points I made in a letter to Judge Gibbons, which I had hoped would be distributed to the entire board. I point out in this letter that at the last prison board meeting, October 18th, we presented a letter of concerns relating to the Comprehensive Inmate Health Services request for proposals. To ensure that the selection process for bids is fair and open, as the RFP said it would be, we asked that anyone who had received campaign contributions from anyone in a bidding organization would not be allowed to continue in the selection process. At that same meeting in October, Commissioner Cummings acknowledged that she has received contributions from the current medical provider. He has also submitted a bid in response to the current RFP. Commissioner Cummings also acknowledged that she has met with the current provider and believes that complaints about him are, quote, unfounded, end quote, and that she, quote, would back him up 100%, end quote. Commissioner Cummings further stated that it is her, quote, opinion that he is doing everything appropriately, end quote. We learned on November 1st that Commissioner Cummings was appointed to the committee, the review committee charged with reviewing RFPs. In view of her acknowledgement that she has received contributions from the current provider and, quote, would back him up 100%, end quote, we request that the board ask Commissioner Cummings to recuse herself from the review committee and the entire selection process for a medical provider. We are thanking the board for considering our request to have a fair and open selection process. And our letter to the judge included signatures from our group, from NEPA prison advocates, and other people interested in the community. A second point I want to make today is related to health. Under the current request for proposal for food service, there's an area on nutritional requirements. These are requirements that must be followed according to the RFP by the whatever organization is awarded this contract. Under nutritional requirements, there is an indication that the dietary reference intakes must be followed. We're especially concerned about the dietary reference intakes for calcium and vitamin D. We have received confidential complaints from women inmates saying that they do not receive milk or yogurt or any dairy products. We'd like to know, is that true? And secondly, we'd like to know, will that be remedied with the new food service contract? Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Warden, can you comment on that last statement by Dr. Bressler about
Yes. The current contract that we have with CBM Food Services, as I say, you want me to jump up here?
Yeah, please.
The current contract that we have expires, if I remember right, the first week of January. Right now, we have a food service RFP out. The current contract does not provide for milk and dairy products. We have a calcium fortified drink that's provided so that individuals are getting their daily recommended allowance of calcium. There is a registered dietitian who is part of the process with the food provider. So there is a registered dietitian who's signing off on it. The new contract does call for milk and dairy products to be available in it. So that the issue that Dr. Bressler refers to there will be addressed to the likings. I'm hoping to the likings of the progressive women of NEPA and anyone else who has that concern. But right now, it's calcium fortified drink is what the individuals at the jail get. We do provide milk to pregnant individuals. Yeah, so that's something that's added. But right now, if we have a pregnant individual there, she does get milk products.
Thank you.
I think Judge Gibbons mentioned it earlier. No members of the board has received or looked at any of the RFPs. So we want to take a good look at it.
That's not correct.
It's going to be.
That's not correct. I have.
I'm sorry?
Yeah. Well, I would like to make a comment on.
We asked Commissioner Cummings to serve as a member of the
Okay.
review committee on behalf of the prison board because of her medical background, and she is a permanent member of the review committee. And all the members of the review committee at this point in time have received the RFPs. We're all in the process of reading, reviewing, grading them. We will be getting together in the future to discuss them. In addition to that, Judge Gibbons has instructed me to provide copies to each of the members of the prison board for their review and recommendation.
That's what I'm referring to, Chief. We have not received them yet. I knew that was ongoing. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd just like to respond to that. Sure, yeah. You know, I appreciate Dr. Bressler coming in and stating her concern. However, when I said I would back him up 100%, it was on the complaints that I followed up on. That's what I was referring to. I wasn't referring to that being, in general, I would back him up 100%, just so you're aware, because I did follow up on every complaint that was brought into my office as a nurse, because I do understand the issues. And most of the complaints were generated because he uses generic medications to save costs. And I don't feel that that's a problem, and the medications were appropriate. So that's what I was referring to in regards to that statement, just so you feel more comfortable. And just so you are aware, I mean, I have the books right here with me. I have three contracts, okay? I've spent numerous hours this past week reading through them, and I've made, I mean, I am very prudent in my notes. I mean, this is, I don't know how I can I show this one page to the solicitor? Is that, well, I mean, I'll show you my notes. And I have notes throughout this contract for Just that, that's just one page. And that's just for the submission by the company that is working, that Dr. Zaloga is working on. So I'm very aware of my responsibilities, and I don't think that people would have elected me as commissioner if they felt like I was going to do a biased job in regards to any part of my position. I don't think that I've done that as of this point. I don't feel that you should have this mistrust in me that I've done it. If you can point to something I've done that you feel was biased, then certainly bring it to our attention. But I know that I can definitely do this job without a biased opinion, especially in regards to what you're referring to in regards to the donation. That was made after he was appointed, so that wasn't beforehand. And I didn't even know Dr. Zaloga before I started this job. That was after my statements were made. Because I did check on that. When you said that, I went back and looked to see when those donations, that one donation was made. And it wasn't a substantial donation. I would be happy to give it back because I don't think it should be an issue. I really don't. And frankly, I'm a little insulted that you even said that. But I understand that you don't know me, so I'll take it with that and offer you the fact that I will be doing my job the way I should be doing it, unbiased. I just want to see what else she said so I can make sure I comment on it. Okay. Oh, the letter to Judge Gibbons. I did respond in regards to that to you as well. So I'll send that over to you.
You're concerned about the tail coverage, is that?
The tail coverage, yeah, I was worried because I didn't know. Actually, I read in his report and some of the others that was necessary to continue the contract, especially in his.
Well, it's part of the proposal. So what happens is that while the provider is under contract and providing the services, they maintain insurance, and the insurance costs are part of their compensation and their bid. When they include their services, they no longer fall under their insurance policy. So they buy tail coverage, which would say, if somebody comes out a year from now and says, I got sick, I got hurt, whatever, because of that, this would be a policy that would cover those claims after the fact if they should come in later. So,
Yep.
So the cost of that is it's not necessary why the contract's ongoing because the existing coverage is in place, so it would trigger at the conclusion of the contract.
But in this, it's saying that the county's liable for that cost, not him, not that company.
That's a term of the proposal, say, you know.
Oh, well.
We pay for it now. That's part of the existing contract, and so that would be, when you look at, here's what our costs, here's what our fees, here's what our projected budget is, you know, the tail coverage would be a component of what they're proposing.
All right, well, I'd like to see the cost on that when
Part of our current contract.
Yeah, I have to look at the cost on that, because I saw that and I wasn't sure why we would have to pay that if it's something that...
Well, and that would be a term of the contract.
Right.
That would be like anything else. We charge $5 a day for this. You know, we say yes, we say no. You know, that's what he's putting on the table.
When we are doing these, because that was the other question I have multiple questions on these contracts. When will we be doing those specific questions? Is it going to be in these meetings, or is that going to be separate from these board meetings?
The reviews, everybody's going to do an independent review, and I think what was contemplated is that the committee would have an opportunity to sit down and go through what we're reading and, you know, try to clarify that we're reading it the same way and what our thoughts are on the various issues that are in there, and, you know, that could be part of a recommendation or discussions that the other board members may come across questions of their own.
Yeah, I wasn't sure on that because I was told we were going to review it today in this meeting, and I thought, well, why would we do that? Wouldn't we do that in a committee meeting?
I think it would be more effective to be prepared before we get something here. It doesn't make sense to, which is why Judge Gibbons made that request.
That was one of the issues Judge Gibbons made a recommendation to extend the contract.
Okay, good.
That's the exact reason why.
Formal action upon that.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else like to address the board? Members, other business?
Oh, yeah, I do, on overtime. Sorry. Just want to confirm on the overtime, well, first of all, thank you to the speakers that came up, Bob Bolles, Beth Ann, Joan, and Stephanie, or Dr. Bresler, thank you. Beth Ann, you had a point in your sentencing, or sentence, that said the prisoners are going to the hospital and that's what's generating overtime. When in fact, we have no part-time staff to cover for any overtime shifts or call-offs. And, you know, there are some departments that even though we do have part-time staff, the contracts don't allow us to utilize them unless it's for a specific purpose. So the warden is not at fault for the overtime. And I agree with you on that. And I agree that, and I hope that the public, in reading my commentary, doesn't feel that I'm blaming the warden, because it seemed like some of the comments that were made, you know, kind of were geared to that, because I certainly am not. So I believe that's our job as commissioners that, you know, have these contracts negotiated to fix those problems. And hopefully we can, but we're working on all of this, you know, every day. So I just want to make sure that I let you know that, because you did address that subject. In regards to, well, this is just for our business, but afterwards you're certainly welcome to meet with me. I have, you know, I'll have time. And as for the GED program, I thought that when I had asked the warden about that, he felt that it was something that wasn't able to start due to the fact that the prisoners aren't there long enough to complete the program. Am I incorrect in that assumption, warden?
No.
Could you say that up at the microphone, please?
I do remember that discussion. What I was applying, and I apologize for any misunderstanding, was that's a complicating factor. It makes it very complicated because sometimes individuals come in quick in and out. So it makes it really hard to be able to judge how long is a person going to be there unless they come in as a sentence defenders.
And in fact, the average stay of most of the prisoners, according to you, was something like
2 weeks.
Yeah, 2 weeks. Yeah. So why would we do an expenditure? I'd have to see how many people that would actually help if we were to I mean, we're talking about tablets, and that's expensive. So I would want to know if you're going to look at that, if you could provide me with the amount of people that would actually be helped and the costs generated for that before I would.
I could definitely get numbers for you.
Support that. So thank you. And last but not least, I have received telephone calls from a few different companies, and I know that you all had suggested I put some type of study together and it was going to generate some costs. However, I didn't even have to do that because companies called me, you know, with interest in either purchasing or in some way getting involved with the prison. So, you know, they are interested to get involved with Lackawanna County. We're waiting to hear back from some of them. I will have more information on that as it comes in, but I don't feel that it will cost our county and it shouldn't, any money to find out what exact programs are out there that would be willing to in some way get involved with our prison, either by purchasing or helping with the programs that are offered. I was not aware of the fact that there were so many companies out there that did this until they actually reached out to us. So I'll have more on that as the information comes in, and I just don't want to give out that information until I'm completely accurate on what day they're going to be coming to present their ideas to the board. But just so you are aware, there are, so far, 3 companies that have reached out and were interested in some of the thoughts that I had in regards to the prison. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Does that have to be for a motion? Okay, regarding the RFPs, we're going to have to need a motion to delay at least another month, extend the contract
I'll make that
until
motion.
we decipher
I'll make that motion
Okay.
to extend it another month.
another month. Do I have a second?
I do.
All in favor?
Aye.
Sheriff, just for clarification, I'll bring that to the Board of Commissioners tonight because you're making a recommendation that the contract is between the Board of Commissioners as the officers of the county and the prisons all follow through on that fee. This
Okay.
evening, you've recommended the 30 days.
Bless you.
Yes.
If that's okay with the prison board.
Thank you, Chief. Okay.
Tracy, we can add that.
Should we adjourn first? Might as well adjourn. Okay. We have to go into an executive session before we adjourn, so I ask everybody if they could just step out for a moment.
We could step out, can't we? Just step out and